Hey everyone, welcome to Pastors Unfiltered. You are joining us for a very special episode because we are almost at our 100th episode, PB. Almost 100. Can you believe it?
I can't believe we've made it that far. We didn't get canceled.
We've been canceled just in different ways. Just not like an open letter with signature saying, please cancel these two men.
We just have had a lot of meetings where we had to say we're sorry.
A lot of those. Hey, well, we're glad that you're listening. Huge shout out to our sponsor, Anderson Lawn Care. Check him out for all your lawn care needs. Mention Pastors Unfiltered to get 20% off your first service. PB, I got a bone to pick with you. I got a bone to pick. Now, I love you. You're my pastor. Yesterday, I needed to talk to you, but you were not here.
I would have picked up the phone.
You were on a 9-inning lunch date. And I think the best part about the 9-inning lunch date, you didn't even stay to see how the game ended.
Oh.
Let's talk about that.
So first off, my wife and I, years ago, she said for our date night, I want us to get a 20-game plan for the Mariners. So we got this 20-game plan. We've been doing it forever.
Wow.
But we don't get to pick the games that we get. So it's in the All-Star Club. They assign us, and we got the Wednesday day game. We decided to go. We went. We both had to get back here by about 3:34 for meetings, and the Mariners were down 5-0. So we bailed. By the time we got home, Randy Arozarena had hit a grand slam.
Grand salami.
But then the Astros scored again, so it was 6-4 going into the 9th inning. Then I had a bunch of meetings. And the Mariners came back and won in the 9th. Like the greatest comeback they've had in years, and I missed it.
Miracle win.
I'm so
now,
ashamed.
I'm going to ask you something that maybe 2% of our audience knows. Did you watch Arsenal versus Madrid the other night?
What is that?
Did anyone just watch the pause? The biggest game in all of the world on Monday. In Europe, Arsenal defeat Madrid at home.
Just we haven't introduced our guest yet, so I'm not going to ask him. Judah, did you watch it? No. Greeny? No.
You're asking three white dudes in the suburbs. Declan Rice, 2-0. Bent it like Beckham is beautiful match.
Oh, well, there it goes.
Maybe that should have been our bet. Forget beards and Korean karaoke. We should go to a Sounders game and make PB sit in the supporter section and wear a Timbers jersey and just see what happens.
I played soccer in high school. This is the thing I always got to remind my wife as she says, you hate soccer. It's because you don't understand soccer. I played soccer in high school. My team placed 3rd in state in my senior year of high school.
That's awesome.
My son played played soccer since he could basically walk all the way through high school. He was the captain of Glacier Peak soccer team. I loved watching that, but I can't support a sport that can end in a tie.
We can go there. We don't need to do this
Tony,
right now on the podcast.
It's only the millennial generation.
There it is. The millennial.
Can handle.
Do we have a count?
A sport.
Do we have a count for how many times the millennials?
In a tie. Hey.
It's the most Trump thing you do. The millennials.
The participation trophy generation can handle a sport. There's either winners or losers, Tony.
Those crooked millennials. Let's dive into our guest.
No, I want to talk to you about the House of David first.
I need to talk to you about this show.
And I need to talk to you about your beard, which is growing in great.
This is 1 week. 1 week.
His 1 week growth beard looks substantially better than my splotch. Judah's shaking his head. Yes, it does look better.
Thank you, Judah. So we were on vacation last week, and I downloaded the entire season of House of David. I think it was like the first 4 episodes that are released.
Shockingly good.
We talked about this. I don't watch Christian TV. Not that I'm against it. It's just been always kind of cheesy and boring. Unbelievably good. The main actor is from Egypt. He's a Coptic Orthodox Christian, like the way I grew up. Unbelievable show.
It's really good.
I was blown away.
I don't typically watch shows week to week. I wait until the whole season drops and then I'll binge watch. But this, I waited.
Oh my goodness.
I think they dropped on Thursday nights, and every Thursday night I would watch it. And there's a group of people in the church. We would text each other, email afterwards, and I even know how it ends. I mean, I know he beats Goliath.
I mean, here's the deal. I
But
don't
it's
think
really well
like
done.
things are just inflated. I do love the drama that they add and the way they make Saul just go delusional. And it's really well done.
I think so. I loved the Nephilim part.
Mhm.
They just did a really good job.
Yeah. Great show. Audrey Dayton works here at the church. If anyone doesn't know who she is an admin here at our church. She does a lot of behind the scenes work.
She's my new favorite employee.
Well, she was my youth kid for 5 years, so I have a tainted view of her.
She is much different than she was as a little sassy high school student.
She needed deliverance like every week. She was upset with us.
No way.
Oh, yeah.
If Audrey's upset, we need to
Yes, way.
apologize.
Let me tell you why.
Audrey, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
We have it's not a running joke. It's just a running dialogue how the church staff of Venture don't listen to our show. And when we bring this up to them at staff meeting, so at staff meetings, we do this thing called round table where everyone goes around at the end and says what's going on in their ministry, anything they want to highlight. And a couple weeks ago, I said, yeah, hey, what's up? None of you guys listen to our podcast. And people just kept typing on their laptops while I spoke. Audrey texted you and I and said, I listen to every single episode. And then we'll text you and I, thank you. That was encouraging. That was good. And then we got a text from Claire last week because we said Claire's not fun.
You said Claire's not fun.
We said Claire's not fun. It was we. This is our show. And Claire was a little hurt. So then I invited her to go have fun, and she said she couldn't. If that wasn't the most Claire thing, I don't know what is.
Hey, that proves that Claire listens to the podcast.
I got to ask you real quick, what's up with the outfit? We got a jersey on. We got a hat that says, y'all need Jesus. What's going on?
The best comment when I walked out ready to film this podcast and Greenie saw me and basically told me I looked like I was 14. This y'all need Jesus hat is somebody, it's a company, I really forget, but I promised them I would drop their name. They sent it to me in the mail. Janessa Waite gave me this hat. So Janessa Waite, wherever you are, thank you for the y'all need Jesus.
That sounds like, I'm sorry. I'm going to say it.
It says right
I know,
there.
but that sounds like a name like alcoholic. Like,
What I'm worried is that I'm technically wearing a girl hat. Is this a girl hat?
No, it's a hat.
Okay.
It's a beautiful hat.
It says y'all need Jesus, which is true. You all need Jesus. And this was a gift that somebody sent me in the mail. If you've ever seen the movie Varsity Blues, I'm not recommending that any of you see it because it does have some adult content, but it is about high school football in Texas. And this is the John Moxon jersey.
John Moxon.
From that. And it's autographed by John Moxon on the back.
That's brilliant. I'm so happy for you.
Look at that. Texas State Champs. 1987 and 1989.
Yeah, I must be proud of that. Well, folks, today we wanted to bring in someone from our church, someone from our team here at Venture who understands money. This is a unique time in America where, once again, it's not unique. This has just been the narrative for years now. People are always worried about their money, worried about the economy. Do I sell? Do I buy? Do we refinance? Do we move to Idaho? What do we do? What about my stocks? What about our portfolio? What? And
to give even more context,
yeah,
last week had 2 of the 10 steepest drops that the Dow Jones has ever had in 2 consecutive days. Then Tuesday of this week, the Dow Jones had the largest gain it's ever had in history. So you get 2 of the worst losses followed by the best gain ever, followed by today. It's Thursday. We're recording this podcast and the Dow dropped pretty significantly again today. So about half the gains you got yesterday, you lost unless you were super smart and sold before the market closed at the end of the day. So there is tons of questions that people have, tons of fear. I would say insecurity. What do I do with my money? I've talked to real estate agents that have clients that are holding off buying houses. contractors in our church that are saying they have clients that don't want to do their construction projects because everybody wants to keep their cash. They're worried about investing. So we thought, let's get somebody that knows what they're talking about. So we have our very own Ty Hutton.
Hello, guys.
Welcome to the show,
Ty, why
Thank
don't
you.
you
Thank
give
you.
us a little bit of who you are and what you do for work?
Yeah. So first, happy to be here. I love the Moxon jersey. So
Have you seen this movie?
I have. Pretty
awesome.
Yeah, it's great. I wish everyone could see it. So I work in finance for the last decade as a private wealth manager. I currently work for a company called Blue Trust that is a faith-based finance company. And then I am also the pastor for Faith and Work here at Venture.
And
Where's the ka-ching button, Judah?
Judah, come on.
The ka-ching. He's
Then-
the money guy.
He's texting a girl. Then, in addition to that, he has the exact same hairstyle as Tony.
I
Bald
do.
is beautiful.
Right? Isn't it?
It's your wife love it
My wife loves it, and I
Yep.
shaved my head today just for you. Too.
every morning,
I had actually had some stubble, and I thought that's not gotta help Tony out.
every day but Saturday.
What razor do you use?
That's a great question. Harry's?
No, I didn't like Harry's. I'm a Schick Hydro guy.
Ooh,
Hydro 5.
that's fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, 5 blade.
Yeah, much fancier than mine. So
Yeah.
I try to do it every other day or so.
That's good.
Can I just, before we dive into finances, can I
Yeah.
ask a bald question?
Here we go.
Shoot.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys like use shampoo on the head?
I do.
Or do you just is it just soap?
I don't do anything.
You
I just
don't?
use water.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, the hair, at the end of the day, you still have follicles, whether they're dead or not, and your head still gets greasy.
So
So I do shampoo.
Your head suds up with shampoo, like your
100%,
bald head.
and that's
has,
why
like-
it gets so shiny. But yes, I do, because I shower twice a day.
All right.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, moisturizer is key, though.
Moisturize, you have to,
Have to do that.
or else you're going
have
to
to.
get dry,
Yeah.
flaky skin.
And you don't
So
want that.
do you have to put suntan lotion up there?
I wear a hat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you. You treat us like we're like not normal people. Like, how do you use the bathroom now that you're bald? I call my caretaker.
All right. Back to the topic at hand. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah,
Family
so married for 16 years to an amazing woman who very good at business. I hit the jackpot with her. So Mercedes works at Dell Technologies. So she's the director of ESG over there, which is an interesting place to be right now in that part of the corporate world.
What does ESG stand for?
Environmental, social, and governance.
Okay.
So she does the reporting for all the shareholders. And so each time, like at the end of the quarter, when Dell has to report its earnings, they have to give a part that is related to ESG, and she's the one that does all the reporting for that.
Wow.
Yeah, so she does that. And then two teenage boys, so 12 and 16. So our house is just awesome right now. Lots of Nerf gun fights and rambunctious boys running around.
Smells weird.
It does. Smells weird all the time. Sometimes you don't know where it's coming from or what it is, but you just got to do your best to, as my oldest would say, lock in and, just lock in, right? So we do a lot of locking in around the house right now.
Skibbity.
Yeah, that one too, right?
Skibbity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I learned that one from Lenny. Yeah.
yeah.
So why don't you tell everybody that's listening that might be new to this whole faith and works idea, what do you oversee at the church?
Yeah, so faith and work is really bringing together the idea that the vast majority of us are actually called to work outside the walls of the church. That's the anointed position that God has given us in this world.
That's it.
And supporting people in that endeavor and helping equip them to go into a world that is pretty hostile sometimes. Given our belief structure and the way that the world works, there's a lot of tension with that. And so walking alongside them and helping equip, and then, education and in community with other Christians in the Seattle area who are in the workforce. And it's just it's a beautiful space to get to sit and to have your feet in both worlds. I absolutely love it.
So with your main job
Mhm.
at Blue Trust, what do you tell your clients that right now are very anxious about the economy, anxious about interest rates, and especially anxious about this craziness in the stock market?
Yeah, I ask them. I mean, the big question I always ask is, who owns it all? Whose money is it? Is it yours? Usually the answer is no. right? And from there, we can start to get into a really good conversation then about how do we want to steward it. If there's fear there, right, then that's a totally different trajectory that we have to take. But I always start the conversation with whose is it, and then build from there based off of what they ask and where they want to go.
Ariel and I are literally that group of people that we want to buy a home, but 7% interest rates aren't really enticing us to want to buy this summer.
Yeah.
And we're those people that are literally holding off because we are like let's just see how things, go after a year or two. We are that group of people right now. So this hits home a lot. So you remind people of obviously God's sovereignty.
Yeah.
Where does the conversation go from there following that?
Usually it goes then to the next step, which is, okay, if we've identified there's fear in the picture, right, and we're worried about what's going on with our money, there's a heart issue, right? So we need to sit there for a little while, and we need to figure out, okay, what is it in our worldview that we are scared of with the tangibility of money? Is it we're holding on to the fact that I've earned this, I've done this, it's mine, it's for my goals and my desires, or are we in the posture of, hey, you know what? Like, God has given me the time, the talent, and the resources, and my job then is to be a steward. And in that case, then I can be much more open-handed, and I can actually start to formulate a strategy and a plan for what He's asking me to do with it. And so it starts to erase a lot of that fear when we can finally get to that place.
That's really good. So people are freaking out.
They are.
There's tariffs and whatnot and talks of tariff. And I don't think anyone knows. I think the common American has no idea what a tariff is.
I know. That's my favorite thing is that you've got all these Twitter experts, ex-experts that are trying to describe a tariff and they don't know. Help our audience give a Reader's Digest, very elementary explanation. Tariffs 101.
Tariffs 101. Okay, so Tony's got a can of soda here. So let's say that Tony is it's his own country. So Tony's his own country and he has a can of soda that's produced in his own country. And I'm my own country. And I have people who want to buy that soda. Okay. Within my own country, though, I have companies that make soda too. And so as I'm importing your soda into my country, I don't like that it's impacting my companies in my own country. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, you can keep importing this into my country, but I'm going to put a tax on it. So for you to bring this to my country, let's say it's a 25% tax. So if it's a dollar, can of soda, and I put a 25% tax on it, well, now your company here is going to say, well, that's great. Like you can put a tariff on me. So I have two options. I can either do trade with someone else. I can go trade my soda to a different country, or I can sell that soda at a more expensive price to the people that live in my country here. So a tariff is effectively just a tax. It's a tax that gets put on a good that's trying to be imported or exported into a country that ultimately lands on our plate as a consumer.
And now remind everyone listening, tariffs have been before the Trump administration as well.
Oh, yeah.
This has been an ongoing thing
absolutely.
for
it's not
decades
new.
and decades.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not new. It's something that's been around for a long time.
And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that the issue isn't necessarily America putting tariffs on imports. It's that all of these other countries already put tariffs on imports from America.
Correct. Yep.
So we are just now doing to them what they do to us.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, in its most simplistic terms, that's what's going on. We're trying to level the playing field as best we can to make it fair for Americans right now is the goal.
So are people freaking out like, oh my goodness, my iPhone that's already $1,000 is now going to be $1,500. Yeah. My fruit that I get from Ecuador, my banana is $1.99. It's going to be $4.99. Is that the fear right now? Just everything is going to hike in price?
It's the fear of the unknown, right? So okay, if the iPhone all of a sudden goes up like that, well, and I need a new phone, but my company's not paying me more, how am I going to get the things that I need?
Yeah.
Right? Because the company might not pay you more just because tariffs go in.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pressure on people right now. There's a lot of stress, at the dinner table when they're looking at their finances. I mean, we can all say when we go to the grocery store right now, Let's be real.
hurts.
Like
It
how much
hurts.
yeah, it is. Like look at the price of eggs alone and how much those have gone up.
Hurts.
It does. And so that is the conversation that everyone's having right now.
Yeah.
And it's a very valid one too.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to explain this using the soda illustration, and this was a conversation Christian and I yesterday were trying to explain to Audrey, who we referred to earlier, what a tariff was. And I think maybe the way to view this as you, Tony, are the consumer, you want to buy soda, you're an American, I own a soda company. Let's say Ty is a Canadian, he owns a soda company. We sell literally the same thing, but you're able to get it from him cheaper. And even though like I'm in your country, but he has undercut the price. And if I send it to his country, my price gets jacked up even though it's the same amount. So that's literally what this whole thing is, if that makes any sense.
It does. Yeah. And it again, it lands on our plate, right? As the consumer is where
because you ultimately want to pay the least amount.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? I'm gonna pick on the basic American who said this. Who said, "Well, hey, I didn't like the cost of groceries under the Biden administration. I voted Trump because, quite frankly, I care about my pocket and I care about my family and our groceries. Hey, now there's some hostility happening with money and there's trade and car companies, manufacturers. Now they're feeling like confused. Maybe like what's going on here." What do you see happening? Can you even predict what's going to happen over the next few weeks, months?
Explain, maybe the way to answer this, Ty, is explain what the goal of these tariffs are.
I mean, the goal ultimately of the tariffs is to level the playing field, right? To try to bring goods in production back here to the U.S. That's the goal. The reality of that is very rarely does that work. Right. In the long run, it takes a long time for something like that to work. So it's not necessarily something we're going to see immediate results from. So that would be again very high level what the strategy is or what the goal with that is. Then the conversations, that like, okay, so now what do we do about this? That's the big one, right? So what's going to happen going forward? No one knows. Right, we have to remember that we can't predict the future. Right, that's in God's hands. God knows what's coming. God knows all of that. We have no clue. We can forecast maybe, but we all know how accurate forecasters are. Right, it's not the So it puts the ball back in our court. Then we have to focus on controlling what we can control, and that's it. Because that's the only place we can live. If we go out into the mix of the market and the economy with fear, well, now we're losing because we're going to make mistakes and we're not actually doing the right thing. So it comes back to just where we sit and we have to control what we can control.
So what would you say to somebody like Tony who said interest rates are about 7%? Should I buy a house or not? What do you say to people like that?
Yeah, I would say, is that something you feel convicted you should be doing right now? God. Is God laying it on your heart? This is the place to put down your roots. Is this the place to start building a family? Is this the place to do it? And if the answer is yes, then it doesn't matter those other factors. We can plan around them, right? You can make a plan work regardless of headwinds like that. Cool. So that would be the first thing. It's just asking the question, like, is that something you actually feel you're driven to do here and now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm driven to keep renting my apartment.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
the thing like interest rates, prices of houses, what it affects is how much of something you can buy. If you're really driven to buy now, you got to fit it within your budget. Just means you might be buying less of a house, but eventually interest rates will drop. You can either refinance or sell, buy a bigger house, kind of upgrade. It's always those types of things.
I think on the heels of that, 2008, I was in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the recession. I knew something was happening because I could see the stress coming home, see the stress on mom and dad, see the stress, parents of friends losing jobs. Now I keep hearing recession thrown out there frequently. And I hear it about once a year.
Yeah.
I really do. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter who's in office. I hear it about once a year. Is there legitimate fear? And I think, maybe I don't want to say fear.
Yeah.
We have already decided our foundation's in Christ.
Yep.
Is there quite possibility of recession?
Mhm.
And if so, how does that also affect us as followers of Christ? Or do we just say, hey,
yeah, that's it again. So I love that we're identifying. Okay, like we find our way, our truth, and everything through Christ, right? We start there, but that doesn't mean that there aren't still actual things happening in the world, right, around
100%.
us. So is recession is it a possibility? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think every financial model shows that right now, that there are indicators that would signal a recession is possible.
Yeah.
Is that a guarantee? No. Those indicators have been wrong before. So you go back to times in like 2016, that was a good one there where a lot of the indicators were signaling recession. It didn't happen.
Yep.
Right. So it broke the mold of those models, right? And so that's a thing to always keep in mind with making the forecast is they can be wrong. But the writing right now would lean in that direction to say, like, yeah, I think a recession is probable. What does that mean to us? Well, it can mean a lot of things. It can mean what we're seeing with companies right now doing layoffs, right? Companies are going to constrict in those kind of environments, so people might lose jobs. That's a reality.
Yeah.
We can see that inflation is still pretty high, right? So that's not something that's going to necessarily wane here very soon. And when we look at the idea of a recession, that means markets as well. The market is going to react accordingly, which we're seeing right now. We're seeing a ton of volatility in the market. And these are all aspects of that bigger picture that looks at the economy and says, yeah, things are stressful right now for the economy.
Yeah.
We are unique in the Seattle area in that we have a very diverse economy.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of companies that they might do some layoffs, but for the most part, they still pay high salaries, things like that. Like, because what ended up happening in 2008, it really affected people that are in mortgages, real estate, contractors. But at the same time, Boeing signed these huge defense contract. And so Boeing was hiring like crazy. So while there was this particular group that really struggled, Seattle was able to kind of weather the storm as long as people didn't panic sell their houses and things like that or get forced to get foreclosed on. They weathered the storm and made it through. That is the one benefit of living in a region of the country where we live.
We have a lot at the Seattle campus specifically right now, post-college graduates from the U, from Seattle U and SPU, but they can't find a job.
Yeah.
They just can't find a job, or they get to round 3, round 4 of interviews, and they're getting dropped.
Is there a reason that they can't find one? Is it because they're looking for jobs with more PTO time?
They're looking for anything, like anything, even a foot in the door. And a lot of the conversation I'm hearing is the market is just so tough right now.
It is. And an interesting little indicator of that is look at the law school, the amount of people who are applying to law school. It's fascinating. If you look back at all the times that there was a strain in the economy, a lot of people decided, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and just go to law school. I've wanted to do that.
Why is that?
I don't know, because maybe they think being a lawyer is like it's recession proof.
Hey, worst case scenario, you can sue somebody,
right?
on their property. And
so that's just a fun little tidbit. But we are seeing a lot of that right now. Like people are making these moves. But to your point, Tony, like the labor market is really tight right now. So the idea of like what it was maybe even 3 years ago, 4 years ago, where you can just bounce around from company to company to get your next bonus, get your next big paycheck. Those days are gone, right? And companies are really constricting, and we're seeing that again with layoffs, and they're not hiring either. So there's a lot of hiring freezes that are going on. And so the generation that's coming out of college right now, I don't want to give it the same label as like you and I, who were, really impacted coming out of college around 2008, in that time frame.
Yeah.
Even though Tony's bald too, you guys aren't the same age.
No,
FYI.
no, I'm.
You look like you're the same age.
Yeah,
I'm 25. How old?
yeah, I'm 26.
Okay, cool.
But so there's that's going to be a reality for these people right now for a while.
Yeah.
It's a tough labor market, and we're going to see more people get flooded into that labor market as the government starts laying people off too, and so that's going to make it even tighter.
So in other words, these people that are really upset that had these really cushy telecommuting jobs should probably just go back to the office when they get called back into the office.
It would behoove you to do that right now. Yes.
So we're followers of Jesus. We know where our hope is.
Mm-hmm.
These things happen all the time. They come and go. What's the hope right now for someone who's, they love Jesus, but they're still worried.
Yeah.
Life is still happening. What's the hope for them right now in this season?
The hope for them, I mean, that's a really, really tough question because
we weather these storms, though.
Yeah, we do. And the hope with that person right now, I would say, lands just in the whispers of Jesus. Like, listen to those whispers right now. Really get quiet, because he might be leading you down a path that you can't even see. Sometimes events like this really transition people to where they exactly need to be. That's a real thing that happens. And, so if we sit there and we're fearful again, and I think this is across the board with everybody, like at every dinner table right now, we're looking at the same things, regardless if you're in a 1-bedroom apartment or a, 10,000 square foot mansion. Mm-hmm. We can all see that prices have gone up. We can all see that the market is in flux. And we can all look at, what we kind of see is coming down the pipeline and say, it doesn't look really good.
Yeah.
But if we're following, again, the whispers of Christ in that, and we can say, okay, he owns this all. This is all his anyways. My only thing to do in this moment is to try to steward it as best as I can and then trust that he's going to do the rest. Who knows what doors he's opening for people right now. And it could be even going into their own business. It could be, maybe going back to school. Maybe one of those people who is going back to law school, it's actually because they need to be going back to law school because they're going to do something amazing with that degree someday.
It reminds me a lot. We have a rule on the podcast. We established it like episode 2. Well, it was like first episode. We don't ever refer to a season of our life where we were locked in our homes for a while because of this thing called the pandemic.
Yeah.
But it reminds me kind of similar to COVID, where there were things the Lord had to do that I wonder, he's sovereign, he could do it. But there's some things COVID expedited in believers everywhere.
Absolutely.
Starting businesses, churches, moving, getting a new job, things that maybe we just were so comfortable, like, I don't know. And then God says, well, let's strip things back.
Yeah.
And let's make it uncomfortable here for a moment.
Well, and not only that, but think about how many people got led to Christ through COVID too. Yeah. Right, because they started to realize all the things that they thought and believed were just crumbling around them, and there was only one truth left.
Yeah.
Well, money is like the last thing for people to really open their hands with, and sitting at this table that I've got to sit at the last 10 years, like that. I mean, guys, even as pastors, like that's not a table we get to sit at and have those kind of conversations with very many people. And money has a deep, deep root in the hearts of the majority of people. And things like this can be miracles for them.
And also think of, we talk about being a driven person, but what is the opposite of drive? It's complacency. Mm-hmm. And it's really easy when you're in an area where it pays super well, and it has paid really well. Like I've said this for the longest time, that Seattle pays people substantially more than they're worth on a regular basis. And after a while, it's not your drive that leads to that. It becomes an expectation. And so you just start thinking, well, I deserve this job that pays an insane amount. I get to work from home. I get unlimited PTO time. These are all the things that I hear from the tech companies, that whenever I try to hire people that have tech connections, they're like, I get unlimited PTO at Microsoft. I get unlimited this and I get unlimited that. And it leads to this complacency and expectation that this is who I am. And what happens in times like this, I call it the reset, where there's like this reset where you're like, oh, you know what? It's actually not a right that I have a job. It's a privilege. Mm-hmm. It's actually not a right that I can go on a month worth of vacations around the world with my family every single year. It's actually a privilege. And sometimes like we need that reset to get us to appreciate, hey, I'm thankful I have a house.
Yeah.
Thankful I have a car.
Yeah.
Thankful I have groceries. I'm thankful for my family.
Mhm.
And I'm thankful for this one vacation I get to do a year, not these 5 I do a year. And I think sometimes this happens. I just think whenever like if there is a storm coming, the storm will eventually subside.
Mhm.
But in that storm, hopefully you learn some things and it kind of rebalances your expectation and things.
Well, and I mean, I think that's really true, right? And it puts into perspective again, focus on what you can control, right? So if we just look at yesterday to today in the market alone and those swings that we saw, do we sitting at this table really have any control of that? No. So I need to focus on what can I control in this scenario? How can I participate in that market if I need to?
Yep.
How can I do that in a way that is what God is asking me to do rather than just be victim of the machine itself?
So going back to 2008, here was advice that mentors had given me leading up to 2008. So I want you as a financial planner helps people with this. This was the advice I was given. In 2008, 2 words of advice. Number 1, Brandon, buy as big of house as you possibly can on an interest-only loan. And that was one of the words of advice. Biggest house you can, interest only, because even if you pay principal, the appreciation value is going to far exceed blah, 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 blah. So they say interest only, big a house as you can, push yourself to the limit. And then the other thing they told me was you get to view your life until you get to your till you hit 70 and you can say, this is the least amount of money I'm ever going to make at this point. So that was the advice before 2008.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that hideously terrible advice?
I mean, as you're saying that, my response to that is like, I wonder how that worked out for the vast majority of people,
but
right?
then I come back to that. So that was my
wild.
thinking. So I bought that big house in Snohomish on a interest-only loan. It was way beyond what Di and I could afford. Eventually, like our salary increased and we were able to afford it, but we had no margin.
Yeah.
And believing that we're always going to make more money, that one thing's going to, and then all that proved not true.
Yeah.
Every theory that my mentors had told me proved not true. And so my job when I walk through that is to learn from that. And what I ended up learning is I have to have margin. I want margin on the equity of my house from the payment. I don't want 75. Remember, back then they were, all you had to do is
you just had to sign
you
your
could
name.
get
Yeah, you
approved
could. Yeah.
for a home loan over the phone in 5 minutes.
Yep.
And you had to learn. Just because I can sort of afford the payment doesn't mean I have any margin.
Yeah.
And I think the key walking through any storm, margin. You margin your finances, life, everything.
Absolutely. I think like if we put it into actual like steps that people should take, especially in these transcend time, right? It doesn't matter if it's now or if it's in a heyday market. Number 1, God owns it all, right? So now we're in a posture of stewardship, not consumption.
Yeah.
Then the second one would be write down goals specific to you. Right? So what's appropriate for you, Tony, is not appropriate for me. And what's appropriate for PB is not appropriate for me, right? It's like our own, if you think about it like your blood work at the doctor, right? We're going to all have different numbers. Therefore, the protocol that we go through for our health will be different. Same thing applies with the money. So I would, definitely write down your goals. My goodness, like write those down. And a goal is not just make more money. That's not a goal, right? It needs to be a tangible thing. Hey, I have X amount of money, and in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm going to use this money for a down payment on a home.
Yeah.
Right? So I need this money to do this kind of return over this next 3 to 5 years so that I can put a down payment on that home. And then that money gets invested just for that. And it stays there. And then we have another bucket for whatever the next goal is and for the next goal. And then that way, it again, it's control what we can control. So it alleviates the fear of the day-to-day in the market, but it also sets you up for success too, right? Because now you're working towards something that's actually for you instead of just an innate object floating around out there.
And I think one of the things that's hurt people, especially being in the Seattle area with our tech industry, we have two things that people involved in tech get to deal with is they get these ridiculously large bonuses to sign with these companies. So that becomes an expectation. Then they get these stock options. And when the stock multiplies, then splits and multiplies and splits again, makes all these millionaires everywhere.
Yep.
And that just becomes the norm expectation where the simplistic idea of save money, invest money over time, over 10 years, the S&P is up 400%, but you got to keep your money there. There's low times, high times. You keep your money there. You be responsible. You invest in your 401k, compound, just the simplistic investment advice in the end is probably the best advice for most people.
Well, it's and what's funny about that is getting to sit at that table with some of the wealthiest people, whether in Seattle or just across the country. You learn things over the years and you recognize all these like fancy investment ideas and this is the get rich quick kind of mindset of the market. None of these people do that.
Not one of them.
They are so meticulous. Every single dollar that goes into the market has a specific reason for it to go there. And they've done their research and there's no emotion. And when it hits the mark that they want it to hit, they're done. There's no greed on the backside of it.
Do you agree with this, that the wealthiest people that simplistic, consistent investing over time?
Yep.
Don't buy into debt.
Yes.
So they don't always try to keep up with the Joneses, having to get a bigger car, bigger house. And they work really hard, and they're not necessarily the flashiest dressers.
You'd be shocked, right? Oftentimes, the wealthiest person in the room is not what you would expect based off of how they're dressed and how they look. Honestly, they don't, because they don't put their money into that stuff. They don't see it as a value add.
When I was in Modesto, we had a Dodge Caravan. So the boys had just gotten born. And it was like, it did not have the automatic doors. We were just thankful that it had doors on both sides. And it was stripped down, piece of trash Dodge Caravans, all we could afford. And I was also the college pastor, and all my college students, they are rolling in brand new cars. Like California, everything is about image, image, image. So I had this idea in my head that I was by far the poorest person in the church. And I thought all these young adults, they either have great jobs or they come from money. That's what I thought because of the cars they drove, the clothes they wore, all of that. We did an anonymous survey. I was doing a financial series for the young adults. And I had them talk about and it was all anonymous. So they felt comfortable answering. And I got 180 responses. And it was their debt load, their actual income, and different things like that. And I found out that the young adult ministry, all people 22 and under, their average debt load on credit cards, consumer debt was $80,000. That was the average amongst and I thought really quickly, And then there became that famous book that came out years ago called The Millionaire Next Door. And it was based on this idea that the millionaire is not who you think it is. You're probably living next to a millionaire. And you live next to them because they live in the house that they bought 20 years ago. They drive a used car. One thing after another. It was really fascinating me in Modesto to realize that all these students were stuck because they were trying to keep up with everybody else.
Well, and it's one of the biggest. Again, it's where money takes its root in the heart, is that desire to try to keep up with the Joneses and to try to continue to consume more than you earn. Right, we live in a consumer-based society that we're constantly inundated with that, and so when you start looking again, now if you look at a wealthy person's credit, they'll use credit card to pay their bills
because they want their
or whatever,
and their
right?
miles,
and there's nothing wrong with that. It gets paid off at the end of every month, and you
never
move
pay
forward,
any interest,
right? But then you can often see, it's almost like you can paint the perfect picture of it. You start to see, okay, I see a couple statements that have a lot of credit card debt, right? And let's just go through the math on that with that person first, right? I mean, some of these things are, 15 to 20% interest, right? If you're, not paying it off every month. Well, then you see they also have the, $700 a month car payment. And then they're the one getting the, 10 grand back on their tax return, which then, sparks all kinds of red flags. And you can quickly see like they've bought into this mindset that's the world, the world view of all of it. And
they bought into the mindset I was told.
Exactly, right?
Every year you're going to make more money. So as long as I can afford it all.
We got to land the plane here soon.
I have a big question I want to ask him before we land the plane.
My grandpa Ty loved the Lord. He was Greek Orthodox in Bethlehem. And he worked for the British Army for a while.
Wow.
And then went and worked in Kuwait in the oil fields. Yeah. And this was my grandpa. Never was a millionaire.
Yeah.
But never was poor. Never had the nicest car. Never had the nicest clothes. And his peace was in the Lord.
Yeah.
Never kept up. Never was trying to compete. And I think this concept of consumerism, it is sin. It's idol. Idol worship. It just is.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. And I've been in it, and I think it's difficult. Because then we lack gratitude. We just thank the Lord that we have a roof over our head and food in front of us and a car that starts. There's just simple things. And I look at his life and I go, well, he loved the Lord and he was at peace.
Yeah.
And I want that. I think today, just having you here, brought me a lot of peace because it reminded me of the greatest truth. Jesus is in control. Yeah. What do I have to worry about? Yeah. What do I have to fear? And
if we believe the Bible, shouldn't we believe that one too?
We should. And I think what concerns me is the amount of people, and I think it's just ignorance, the amount of people that I've heard time and time again go, well, once so-and-so is a president, we're going to be good.
Yeah.
They're going to fix the economy. I'm like, well, we haven't fixed the economy for 200-something years now.
Yeah.
What's going to lead you to think this person or that cabinet or whoever? And I think that's where maybe we just got to go back to, I trust Jesus and I'm faithful to what he's given me.
And then the same principles always apply. Save money, invest consistently, and you do that over time. You accumulate wealth, but that's not even what the goal is. I think my favorite thing about this conversation is this did not go the direction I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
What it's done is that you've done a good job saying, hey, you're right. Stock market's going crazy. Tariffs, people don't understand, and interest rates are high. But in the end, this is like a you and Jesus thing.
Yeah,
like, really do we put our trust in Jesus? So I really love that. I hope that was helpful for those of you that are listening. I'm going to ask you one fun question, and I'm going to push you on it, and I don't want a Sunday school answer.
Okay. And I'm going to do an impression for you.
Okay. Yeah. So let's say you're somebody. Let's say you're Tony.
Okay, I'm Tony.
Tony's sitting here. He has $5,000 burning a hole in his pocket.
Yeah.
Like it's sitting in his savings account. He's watching the stock market go down, up a little bit. When would you tell him, all right, you got 5,000, you're willing to lose it? When would you say, jump in and buy Tesla? Don't buy Tesla. Jump in and buy Meta.
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Ariel was literally texting me this morning. What do we buy? Yeah. I am not joking. She goes, I think we should jump in. And I was like, well, we should not. But
I would say, oh boy.
Would you say, okay, if you're really willing to lose it, jump in now or wait?
Oh, I say that any time's a good time, right? Because if we believe that the economy is growing over time, right? If I buy the S&P 500 index today, it should be worth more than it is today 5 years from now. If I bought it last year when it was pretty high, I would assume that companies will continue to be profitable going forward, so it should be a low water mark 10 years from now as well. So from a timing standpoint, when you look at the actual data, timing the market doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And especially when you're buying like an ETF or something like that, just buy it whenever. And now's a great time. I mean, there's no reason not to. You might see it drop in value for a while, But again, like if you have that long-term approach and you realize this is going to be over time, then it doesn't matter. Then it'll go up over time.
Yeah. The people that have asked me, because they know that I love to dabble in the stock market, I just tell people, if you invest in blue chip stocks and you're willing to sit on it for in the long haul, in the end, you're going to be fine.
You will. And you know, again, it goes, like I'm going to tie it back into just, I want to leave everyone with 6 things. Like, and they're simple, right? It sounds like a laundry list, but it's not.
Okay.
Number 1, for everyone listening, get into the right posture of who owns the money anyways.
Yep.
Number 1. Okay. Number 2, write down your goals. Actually write things down and have a tangible outcome that you want to see happen with it. A prayerful outcome.
Yep.
Number 3, do your best to spend less than you earn.
Isn't that just a simple one we should do?
It is, right? You would think so.
Have margin.
Number, what was that? It was 3, right?
4.
Was that 3? So now we're on 4. Number 4, try to decrease debt where you can.
It's the economy, stupid.
Okay, right? Now, in some cases, to start a business, like there's good debt and there's bad debt, right? But for simplicity's sake, try to decrease debt where you can. Number 5, diversify your investments. Okay, don't just own one company and play it like it's a casino, because it's not. It'll take your money. The house will win with the stock market, and there's reasons why it'll win. So play the diversified game, and then number 6, be generous. Not yours, right? Always keep that hand open on the backside, and God will support you through it. And again, it might not be what you want it to be. It might not be, you know, the fancy car and the big house, but it's what God wants when we open that hand.
So instead of taking your 5,000 and going all in with Tesla, diversify.
Diversify.
Tesla, Ford, Stellantis.
Or just
Microsoft.
Those are a lot of car companies. So I would just say S&P
Go
500.
Coca-Cola.
I would
Coca-Cola, Apple,
No,
Amazon,
that's good,
Microsoft.
Yeah.
I think today this is just a really healthy and grounded conversation going back to Jesus. And truly, man, thank you for being here. And
I want to hear your impression.
Yeah. You ready? They always make Greenie chuckle. Tariffs. And what did he say yesterday? These aren't off the rack. What'd you think?
It was good.
It's pretty good.
Thank
you.
you.
Good.
Tariffs.
Okay. Ty, tell us on a more non-serious note, what are you listening to right now?
Right now, I have been listening.
Besides Pastors Unfiltered, which you listen to one episode.
I've been listening to Arthur Brooks. So he's been going on this podcast journey where he's talking about his new book that's based on happiness. And I'm just fascinated by him as a person and his approach to happiness. And that he's also like this classically trained economist who grew up in Spokane, teaches at Harvard. Just fascinating guy. So I'm listening to him on all different podcasts. So each
So if we got him on our podcast, we'd get you to listen.
Oh, you'd hit the jackpot. Yeah, if you can get him on this podcast, I will definitely listen. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, Tony, will you work it?
Yeah. Easy.
Yeah.
We're just trying to get him, Cliff Connectley.
Yeah.
All these guys that we love and know.
Yeah,
so that's who I'm
we have an
listening
ask
to right
out
now.
to Joe Rogan too.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan.
Let me know when that one happens, as well. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, and what are you guys doing for fun?
Right now, we're just getting out of ski season, so I've been doing a lot of skiing. That's winding down. I think we'll probably go maybe 1 or 2 more times, and then get into summer mode. So we're planning some travel and planning some lake time on the other side of the state to just lounge in the sun and go into kind of a Sabbath right during the summer and just rest a little bit.
Anything interesting you're reading?
Interesting. I'm reading right now Ernest Hemingway. I wanted to go back and read Old Man in the Sea.
The second person in a row there.
You're the second guest today to say
really?
that.
I'm reading a book on the history of Bigfoot. He's reading Ernest Hemingway.
Yeah, that's expected, but that's wow.
Yeah, I felt like going back to like he's always been my favorite author, and I've been reading a lot of like nonfiction books recently.
Yeah,
and I just felt like, you know what, I want to read my Bible, and I just want a good story.
Oh,
yeah,
and so I'm reading Old Man in the Sea.
Mindless
again right
drivel
now.
is the best.
Yeah.
After years of working on that doctorate, I just wanted mindless drivel.
Yeah. So that's what I'm reading.
That's
I
awesome.
recommend that one. If you haven't read Old Man in the Sea, read that one.
Wow.
All right, next week, Tony, guess what it is? Easter.
Easter, biggest Sunday of the year for us, our Super Bowl.
It is. And our next podcast guest is Rabbi Matt.
Dear friend of all of ours.
That episode will actually be dropping on Monday. So for those of you that are listening to this, be sure to check back. We're going to have our Easter week episode's going to come early because Tony and I need to focus on something else.
And he did a prolific job teaching on why Passover, what is the Passover, the history of it, the importance of it on Messianic Christianity. That was really good. It's a really healthy conversation. And he's funny. He's
hilarious.
He's like, it's very unique. He's like a Christian Limbeck. You don't find guys like this where they're extremely intellectual, but also extremely humorous and just funny. He's both.
And he wears sweatshirts and hats.
He does.
And
all the
smokes
time.
cigars. Big cigar guy. He asked me on the pod, are you going to come smoke with me?
Let's do it. Me and you, Tony.
Jabin Arment listens to this.
Jabin doesn't think you're perfect. Plus, we have to say things on the podcast that his parents get to use as teaching moments.
Don't feel like the
Don't
pastors
feel like
at that
that.
church. Ty, thank you for being here. And honestly, you have just been such a blessing and a great friend since you have, since you guys have made Venture home and you've supported Ariel and I, and you support the church. So thank you, brother. Honestly.
You're welcome. It's
you.
an honor to be here, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Rabbi Matt next week.
Rabbi Matt next week, 100th episode, live recording.
It's coming.
Coming. Connor Takata, Sean King. We're going to do an episode with them pretty soon.
Yep. An episode with Nick Wallstead.
Nick
We got all
Wallstead,
these
pastor
great.
of Gold Creek. Now, people have been asking, rumors out, Marty Solomon's coming back.
Yep.
I've been asked this multiple times. Is he coming back on the pod?
Of course.
He was just on Lecrae's podcast. So Lecrae has a really huge podcast.
He's on Lecrae's podcast.
Well,
the
Lecrae,
Bama podcast,
Lecrae literally had
and Pastors Unfiltered.
Lecrae last week had Will Smith, and the week before was Marty Solomon. So I'm just
Oh my God.
Anyway,
we have Marty on our podcast to keep him humble.
To watch Marty Solomon answer questions, and Lecrae's jaw is dropped. I think Lecrae's intellect. I mean, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
He has his doctorate as well, but it was awesome. And Marty, one of those guys, just down to earth.
He is.
Good dude.
He is.
Great guy. So, all right. Well, folks, thanks for listening. We appreciate you. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Don't forget to give us 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. And don't forget, if you have any critical feedback for us, Morgan Butcher would love to hear it. Morgan.b@ourventure.church. He reads all your fan mail. Anything else you want to say? Y'all need Jesus?
Y'all need Jesus. He's the hope of the world.
Raiders roll.